Morning and welcome to this morning's executive. This is the first meeting of the new extended executive, so welcome to the new members who haven't been here before. Just as a reminder as well that this is a new set of standing orders that we're working towards. It may be a wee bit bumpy today, but we'll try and work our way through it and eventually get into a rhythm. But there was briefings for all members, but we'll try and guide people as best we can through this morning's process. Firstly, do we have any apologies?
Yes, Convener, we have apologies from Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest at this stage? No. Okay, we move on to the minute of the Education, Children and Young People's Executive held on the 28th of May, which is pages 4 to 10. As again, this has been one of the changes that we only have the one executive now, so we've looked to agree those minutes. Those are in the papers there. Are we happy to agree? Thank you. And there is the minute of the executive held on the 11th of June. Happy to agree? We now move to the rolling action log. And I'll turn to Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Convener. This part of the agenda hasn't changed in the new arrangements under the new standing orders. As usual, it reflects decisions made previously by the executive where a report is called for and provides information on the current progress against the reporting requirements. It's available for members to ask questions in relation to the action.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. I'll open up any questions in relation to the action. Bailey Kent.
Thanks, Convener. On page 33 for item ID 685, the flex, I see its reported date is the 12th of September. I had a conversation with a company contacted me last week regarding flex, and I'd like to take this offline with Karen and her team, because what they're saying is us and Stirling are the only two, might be another one that isn't using the flex, and I think that we're losing an opportunity. Councillor Spears mentions it all the time regarding not just the council tenants, but the private sector who are losing out. And this is the sort of thing that this company is advocating. So I think it'd be advantageous for us. It's not just this, there's various companies. There is a financial incentive for the council as well. So it's possible to take offline.
I think we can probably give you an answer just now. I'll go to Mr. Kettrick.
Thank you, Convener. There will be a report coming on the 12th of September which will make recommendations for us in relation to, it's not just Secoflex, it's now called the Great British Insulation Scheme. So there will be a coming forward on that on the 12th of September.
Okay. I didn't know it was you, or had I been at you already? Thanks very much, Convener. Thanks.
Thank
Paul.
you. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you, Convener. It's just a very general point for future as we go forward. So we have an action log that separates education really.
It's a combined action law, reflected back as a single one.
Councillor Spears.
If I could ask Mr. Kettrick regarding his statement about the Great British Insulation Scheme, is there anything coming forward to the Scottish Government, or will this be said of the south border?
The scheme that we will be reporting on applies to Scotland also.
That's good, because we need to remember that net zero needs to involve everybody, not just people that claim a benefit to be able to get.
Okay, thank you for that. If there are no other questions, we're happy to agree the action log. Okay, we now move into the agenda proper, and the first item is the Green report. Before we go into the report, I'll open it up for questions, and can I remind members that it's questions, not statements, and it should be fairly concise by way of questions in order that we can get through the business. I'll open it up for questions. No questions. We have no amendment. Therefore, we'll move just straight to the moving of the report. And it falls to myself being in the room. Councillor Garner's online today. We've reached a significant milestone in the journey of the fourth Greenport, and we want to acknowledge the significant work that's been carried out to get us to this point. Two main areas of the report, the first being the full business case. Full business case has been drafted by the fourth Greenport, the Greenport Consortium, with Falkirk Council as a designated accountable body, and therefore holding the pen, so to speak. It's anticipated that it will be submitted to both UK and Scottish governments by the end of next week, 30th of August, and approval early in 2025. The full business case has been developed from the outline business case and structured around the HM Treasury 5 cases model, which are based on strategic case, economic case, financial case, commercial case, and management case, all of which have to be aligned before it will gain government approval. This will in turn unlock seed capital from the UK and Scottish governments, of which is being asked is 24.5 million available. This will be used to support a number of projects following the criteria. It was a phased, the long list of potential projects supported by the seed capital. The exercise identified 4 priority projects totaling of 17.9 million. These were for Falkirk, the utility space at Fourth Ports facility in Grangemouth, the land preparation for INEOS, the low carbon hydrogen production facility, and beyond those, further proposals for a maximum ask of 24.5 million, including 1 million for Falkirk Council land preparation, South Bridge Street and Bullflats Road. Full approval for the full business case would unlock the seed funding. The other area is the non-domestic rates. By way of stimulating the new economic activity, landholders who invest new eligible developments in the site are able to apply for the Green Freeport tax benefits, including 100% non-domestic rates relief. Billing authority in respect of non-domestic rate relief for Grangemouth tax sites is Falkirk Council. In granting the relief, it's reimbursed by the Scottish Government over the period of 24-25 to 2048-49. And currently projections show that the Council will potentially receive approximately 107 million over the 25-year period. This will be in addition to the sums retained under the Falkirk TIF. Okay. Apologies, folks.
Sorry to interrupt, convener. I don't actually think it's your microphone. It was the last few councillors that have spoke. The sound hasn't been great at all.
Okay.
So it's not just you.
Okay. Well, thanks for letting us know that, Councillor Patterson. We'll just maybe take a pause for a minute.
One of our IT colleagues is within the building complex, so we're hoping he'll join us shortly just to give a bit of advice on how to improve the sound.
Thank you. It is pretty poor. It's not just kind of, it's quite poor for any of the speeches.
Councillor Gardner, you got a comment in relation to the sound?
No, I just agree with Councillor Patterson there, but I was just wondering if that's when I come into second the report.
I hadn't finished, sorry. But we'll try and get the sound.
The sound is pretty bad. Yeah, I thought you had finished. Apologies. I wasn't hoping you had finished. I thought you had finished.
I'll not make any comment on that. We'll just. Is that any better? Yes. Okay. Right. Do you wish me to start again? I'm happy to pick up where I left off.
No comment.
Okay, in granting the non-domestic rates relief, it is reversed by the Scottish Government over the period 25-26 to 2048-49. Currently, projections show that the Council will potentially receive approximately 107 million over the 25-year period. This will be in addition to the sums retained under the Falkirk TIF programme. It should be noted that this will not start to accrue for a number of years, as it's anticipated that it will take a bit of time to build up and establish new businesses. Future reports will be presented on the process of the identification and evaluation of the proposals for the investment of the sums which have accrued. Falkirk Council officers, along with the City of Edinburgh and Fife Council officers, have designed a fourth Greenport-wide non-domestic rates relief policy, which will allow determination of the applications. The NDR rates relief policy will be, and the ability to retain the non-domestic rates for the tax site will increase the Council's capacity to support a just transition to net zero, including supporting communities and businesses that are most affected by the need to reduce the industrial carbon as we reach for net zero by 2045. The report will be presented in early 25, sitting alongside the General Services Capital Programme on the non-domestic rates relief investment plan. It will set out updated projections and the process for the development of a business case for investment proposals and governance arrangements for these. As highlighted previously, due to the nature of the long-term project, the non-domestic rates relief retained income is unlikely to see any sums achieved within the next few years. Fourth Greenport full business case submission represents a major milestone in delivery of this significant economic development investment programme and is designed to deliver sustainable inclusive growth. Seed funding will unlock and accelerate the delivery of tax sites, provide early benefits, including the retained non-domestic rates. The non-domestic rates relief policy is a cornerstone of the Fourth Greenport strategy, and it attracts green businesses and significant investment, which will create high-quality jobs and drive sustainable economic growth. The Fourth Greenport is designed to deliver sustainable inclusive growth that will support green industries, develop skills, regenerate brownfield sites, and provide our communities with long-term sustainable skilled jobs and support the just transition. I therefore move the report and the recommendations as in the page 37. Councillor Garner, if you wish to come in now, you can.
Yeah, you've covered everything well there. I'm happy to second.
Thank you. As we have no amendment, I now turn to the group leaders and indeed the independents to see if they wish to explain why there's no amendment.
Thank you, Convener. As this is largely an update report, we have no amendments to put forward at this juncture. I'd just like to say thank you to the officers who've done a huge amount of work in this. We do have continuing concerns, and we will be continuing to scrutinise to ensure that the progress on the Freeport does benefit the community, but I am satisfied that the work that's been done by officers is keeping that very much to the forefront at the moment, particularly in terms of the non-domestic rates and so on. So we are happy to support it as it is, but we'll continue to scrutinise.
Thank you. Bailey Kerr.
Thanks, Convener. The report is the start of a journey. Hopefully, at the end of the journey, the ambitions of what has been set out will be achieved. Regarding the climate and regarding financial aspects for this area. So we are very interested as a group in this because it brings, hopefully it will bring quality jobs, local people and local businesses. I've got a question. Quick question. I'm sure Paul will be able to answer it quite quick.
Could I ask your questions beforehand?
But we keep on asking about reducing CO2 emissions. Will we have? How will we know that the CO2 emissions are being reduced?
I'll let the question this time, but when we get questions, that's the type of things we need to ask. But I'm recognising that we're
I was
in a
awaiting
new
my bag
regime.
for my pad and came back and went, any more questions? And I lost it.
A little bit of levity since it's the first meeting. Mr. Kettle.
Thanks, Convener. As part of the evaluation of the fourth Greenport going forward, there's a number of performance measures. One of those includes carbon reduction in the longer term.
Look forward to seeing that. Thanks, Convener.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Spears.
I have a couple of questions for Mr. Ketchuk.
Can I, again, I'm going to say it, keep your questions very brief. The opportunity for questions was when I call for questions.
Well,
I'm giving a little...
If you could...
Councillor Spears, could you let me finish? I will let it on this occasion, but this will be the only occasion as it's a new regime.
If you could amplify the regards on 214, the adoption of non-domestic rates relief policy, and how would this affect other businesses that are in the area and will go through severe times when the refinery stops its refining capacity? This is a very serious question for businesses in Grangemouth.
Okay, Councillor Spears. Councillor Spears,
sorry,
I'm sorry, Councillor Spears, you've asked your question. It's not statements, it's questions. I'm going to go to Mr. Ketchuk now.
The application of non-domestic rates applies to the tax sites as they are designated. And that is what it is applied to in terms of the achievement of that non-domestic rates, that incentive. In terms of existing businesses that are located in and around and other sites at Grangemouth, it is for them to modernise with the just transition in their own commercial term. But the whole point of the non-domestic rates relief is to attract new businesses to the area and the value that they will add to Greenport.
So our long-term businesses will not be given the same relief, so they're going through a difficult time, and they have supported many jobs in the town for many years.
Councillor Spears, that was explored in detail at the members' briefings, and it's a statement of fact. I'm now moving on. Councillor Buchanan, have you got? Oh, sorry, Bailey Buchanan, have you got any comment you wish to make?
Nothing at this stage, thank you.
Okay, thank you. As there's no amendment, there's no debate, so we're now happy to agree the report.
Agreed.
Okay, we move on to the next item, which is the council tax second homes levy, and I will call for... Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. It's calendar park management plan. I beg your pardon. There is an amendment for this, but we'll go to questions first, and this is the opportunity to ask questions. It is questions and not statements. Any questions at this time for officers?
Yeah. Aye.
Okay. Sorry. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you. There was a question raised in the briefing which I would like to repeat here. There were issues about the defibrillators and availability in Calendar Park, and I wonder if the officers could give us a little reassurance that that's being dealt with.
Thank you. Could I defer to Mike York on the call, please?
Mike.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, thank you very much for the question. I'm aware of an incident that happened in the park a number of weeks ago, and this question was raised. There's defibrillators available within Calendar House and also within each of the a number of the high-rise buildings to the north of the park that should be available 24/7. However, Working with Falkirk Junior Bike Club, we are in the process of getting a defibrillator to be installed at the new Par 3 building. So we will have one available within the park itself relatively shortly.
Thank you. One more question, please. Glad to hear that one's being picked up. The other question is, there's reference within the master plan to changes in relation to parking. I think parking is an issue that is of great concern to people throughout the Falkirk Council area. Is this going to reduce availability of parking, increase costs, and how is it going to impact, generally speaking, on the parking in the Falkirk Council area or the Falkirk area?
Thanks, Councillor Hannah. There is a piece of work going on from a wider scope of parking strategy that my colleagues in roads are progressing. The key aspect of developing any parking strategy is doing really clear assessment of actual use and how people are using spaces, what impact any charges may have on the surrounding areas. We're very conscious, particularly at Calendar Park, the high-rise block of flats. If we introduce charging within the park, what impact that would have. So we've got quite a bit of work to be done on a feasibility study and monitor and assess and determine whether it would be appropriate to consider introducing charges into the park, but that's some way off.
Will that be reported to a future meeting?
Yes, this would be, yes, that change would be reported.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bailey Kerr?
Thanks, Convener. I feel as if we're in this back front, and I don't know if it's just because we're new to it, but I've got questions that I asked at the briefing, and officers asked them, answered them very good. However, this is an open meeting for transparency, and they've not done the report for me to ask the questions yet.
The papers are taken as read.
Like, is that made public to the papers made public to?
The papers are made into the public domain and they're taken as read.
Okay. So, Mr. McGuinness, with regards to the outside there used to be the stables and different, there's a couple of wee houses there. How much would it cost to bring that up to a normal standard?
Thank you, Bailey Kerr. There was a condition survey carried out on the stable block and the houses and the facilities surrounding it. There was a cost of £700,000 to bring it up into a decent condition. To bring it into economic use, there's been another piece of work done which explored bringing the full stable block into wider economic use, and that was a significant order of magnitude, £9 million required to bring up to full economic use, but that was a special uses. So there's quite a significant amount of funding to bring the building into any use at all, and we'll obviously continue to monitor and keep it as safe as possible at this point in time. But there are challenges ahead with that.
Thank you very much. Well, I've mentioned that the COVID memorial, what was the cost and where's that money come from?
The money comes from Scottish Government, I believe. I don't have that figure. I don't know if Mike, if you have that figure available, Mike possibly has that.
Yeah, I understand that the sum is in the region of £100,000, and that was to cover the fees of the artist that's been engaged in the development process, the materials to construct the sculpture, and for the installation of the sculpture.
Thanks very much. That'll be a great addition to the park. As we all know somebody that passed away during the COVID years. Next quick question is with regards to consultation results was mentioned 80% of people who answered. How many people actually took part in the consultation?
Thank you, Bailey Kerr. There were over 415 members of the public took part in the wider consultation. The Participate Plus questionnaire that went out was responded to by 139 members.
And it's the same with every consultation we do, Ms McGuinness. It gets hard and harder to engage our communities. And I think we have been elected in 2017. We've used different methods. Just need to keep evolving to try and get as much information for our communities as possible. And last question. This vision doesn't include Calendar House.
Okay, that is correct. We recognise the importance of the House, and as it says in the report, we're looking to come back to members early part of next year with a report specifically on the House, and obviously it sits within Calendar Park. This was very much about management of the park itself, and the Calendar House report will come forward to members for consideration.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr McGuinness.
Thank you. Councillor Spears.
Thank you. I'm going to ask some of the questions asked at the briefing session, since we're in a wider forum and the public now able to view. One, mainly the concerns for the charges for the use of the park, especially by organisations who do a great deal to enhance the standard of the town and bring a great many people in, not just to the park, but to the town centre. But if we continue to charge them such a high rate, then it's going to be impossible for these voluntary organisations to be able to use the park and to run the events that they run at present. And maybe we should seriously look at managing the park properly.
Councillor Spears, that's becoming a statement. You've asked a question. I'm going to go to Officer.
Sorry, what's a statement to you as a fact, and what questions are getting asked to me outside? If you're afraid to answer the questions,
Councillor Spears,
they're getting answered outside.
Councillor Spears,
that's your problem.
This is for questions, and I made it quite clear it had to be questions and not statements. You've asked a question, I'll get an answer.
Also, I think called speech.
Sorry, Councillor Spears. I don't think there was a question.
He asked about in relation to the charges,
particularly voluntary. If I get a chance to finish, will there be arrangements made so that people who organise large events for the benefit of the town will get a much reduced rate? Thank you.
Thank you for clarification, Councillor Spears. The rates have been agreed by members. They are located on our website. We sent yourself the link to that to make sure you're fully aware of what has been agreed by members and stated within the report that came forward previously that set these charges by elected members. We have to abide by those charges that have been set.
I would say then it's maybe something we should seriously look again at. Secondly, there was a suggestion put forward to create a caravan park at the west end of the park, which is little used. Since this paper is really to try and make the park more profitable, then this would help greatly with our tourist endeavours to increase tourism, help save the high street, and also let people be able to use Falkirk as a holiday destination.
Thank you, Councillor Spears. We are exploring the opportunity for supporting motorhomes in terms of overnight provision, etc. That is a piece of what we will embark on as part of our 10-year management plan to determine would it be suitable, appropriate and beneficial to our community to provide such services. But there's a piece of work going on to look at that in detail.
Well, that's very welcome because it will be very advantageous for bringing extra tourism. Thank you.
Thank you, and Councillor Redmond.
Thanks. I'll try and keep it brief and keep it within the new regime. So just I missed the briefing obviously, so because I was away on holiday. But so the question I had was, obviously we've got these empty buildings, the stables, and there's an empty house as well, and we've got housing kind of crisis locally in the area and in Scotland. So has there been any thought given to maybe selling these buildings off to developers, and they could be developed into new housing? The council doesn't really seem to have the money to bring them. We've got the money to kind of rectify them to. In fact, I don't even think we've got the money to rectify them to a kind of maintainable standard, but it doesn't seem that we've got the money to bring them back into use. I don't really see there being much demand for our stables anymore. That's probably why they've been closed. So has there been any thought given to potentially selling these buildings?
Could I defer to my asset colleague, please?
Indeed.
Thank you, Convener. There was initial consideration given to proposals for the re-economic use of the stables. One of the challenges is that if you were to dispose of areas within it, there is two parts. One is there is restrictions in title that may apply to the park, and whilst they could be overcome, once you start to fragment the ownership within the park, you actually start to lose elements of control. The introduction of these of private investment would be welcome, and we have to develop proposals in the longer term. Would I say it would be housing or some other kind of commercial use? I wouldn't want to preempt that at the investigations.
Thanks. That's good. I'll probably tie in using that later, but I thought it'd be a good idea to ask that publicly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Redmond. Okay, if there are no... Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Convener. It's just a quick question regarding the entrance into the park. Because I was in the park last month, I had to make an emergency call because somebody fell ill, and the ambulance couldn't get into the park because the gate was shut. Thankfully, it was quite near the basketball clearance, so it wasn't too far for the emergency staff to get to the paramedic. But if it were further afield, park, that ambulance couldn't get there, and that's time being wasted for emergency treatment. So, what can be done to improve access to the park for emergency service?
Thank you. Could I defer to Mike Hewitt, please?
Mike?
Sorry, yes, just to check what the question was, because apologies that the sound quality was poor again, but I think was the question in relation to access to the park for emergency vehicles?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm aware there was an incident at an event recently. All events that take place from the park should have be fully risk assessed and consider things like access for emergency vehicles. So that would have been included within the event preparation. However, there is still a need to control access to the park. We do have instances where vehicles will drive through the park, and it's important for the safety of the rest of the park users that is managed and controlled appropriately. We will be looking at the design of our gateways and our thresholds and how to ensure that they're safe and appropriate. But as I say, there'll always be a need to ensure that we have some measure of control, vehicle control at these entrances. And that's especially the case when we're hosting events in the park, where it's for the new rules that are coming in round about event management. We have to be sure that they can withstand vehicles trying to take access through the park.
Is it possible for the council to work with NHS Forth Valley so there's like a key so they can just unlock the gate in those circumstances?
Absolutely. I think vast majority of our sites open with with just 2 or 3 different types of key. There's standard padlocks that we use. Other places we do have drop pollards where the keys are different. I am aware that emergency services do have keys to access our sites. However, these can sometimes be either misplaced or they're just not to hand at the time, at which point they would typically, especially if the fire brigade are present, they'll basically just remove the vehicle barrier using the equipment that they have. But yes, we can definitely look at that again and just ensure that that they have access to the required keys.
Thank you, Councillor Bundy. Okay, we now. Oh, sorry, Councillor Nimmo.
Thanks, just a quick question, Mr. Patrick, based on his last answer to do with the stables. Obviously, a grade 2 listed building, renovation works are going to take place quite like millions. Do we actually have a value attached to the stable buildings? Value that recently?
Convener, it will be sitting on our asset register, but it's no figures that I would have readily available. I'm happy to provide these.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we will move into the next section, which will be Councillor Gardner to first of all move the report, and following that being seconded, we'll go to Councillor Bundy for his amendment.
Thank you, Convener. Just getting used to this new regime as well. I'd also like to thank Michael, Danny and Mike for the members' briefing just the other day. That was very helpful. Calendar Park is one of our best, most loved parks, visited by families and from many generations, and with a rich history is in need of a master plan fit for such a place. So I'm pleased to present today to the Executive a finalised draft of the Calendar Park Management Plan 24 to 2034, which I hope will be approved by all. This plan will help deliver the Council plan vision by contributing to the strategic priorities of supporting stronger and healthier communities, promoting opportunities in educational attainment, supporting a thriving economy and green transition. The Calendar Park Master Plan sets a clear vision and objectives for managing and enhancing the park over the next 10 years. Support for the plan has been tested through consultation with key stakeholders, park users and communities of the wider Falkirk area. An action plan prioritise key actions for Falkirk Council officers and wider stakeholders on an annual basis and offers a framework for developing and enhancing the park through work in partnership. Although efforts have been made to tailor the ambition of the plan to fit within the current financial climate, there is a need to address a number of long-standing issues within the park, most significant of which is the restoration of the stable blocks and associated buildings, which a few people have talked about already, the Category B listed buildings. I'm delighted to see progress being made on delivering several improvements on the park, including the following: the mountain bike skills trail active travel hub, supported by £240,000 of external funding, which will create a new cycling facility for people of all ages and abilities. The Active Travel Hub is located within the refurbished Part 3 building and accommodates a new changing places toilet and grounds maintenance bothy. The facilities are expected to be completed very soon. I'm waiting for a date back from Mike Ure as we speak. The kiosk concessions is now a place with a lease covering the kiosk, management of the toilets, crazy golf and provision of summer activities. This marks a significant milestone towards generating income and reducing costs for the park. The Remembering Together Memorial, which has been mentioned to commemorate the COVID pandemic, is currently in development and is expected to be installed at the west end of Calendar Loch by December 2024. The Scottish Government funded project will, I'm sure, be welcomed by the whole community and mostly by those who lost a loved one during the pandemic. Having had a preview of the design by artist Casper Wilson, this is a very special piece of art and the briefing for members is due in September. The Council has secured £150,000 of UK Shared Prosperity Fund money to invest in Calendar Park. A community vote is currently underway to choose which 2 projects will receive £75,000 each for delivery in the current financial year. So whatever you use the park for, walking the dog, cycling, getting away from the hustle and bustle, or joining in with the hundreds of runners in the park run on a Saturday morning, I hope this plan will benefit you. Convener, I'm happy to recommend this report, and I'm sure the executive will approve the Calendar Park Master Plan for 24 to 34. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. Councillor Boyce.
Thank you. Can I thank Councillor Garner for that extensive covering of the report. So I will keep mine relatively short in that I agree with the vision for the park. It should be a fun, vibrant, inspirational place for the people of Falkirk and for obviously the positive tourism reputation that Falkirk has already got. I lived here in just over 32 years now. I lived quite close to Calendar Park for 6 years, and it was always a fun place to go. And even today it is. My wife, my dogs go up there quite regularly. I hope that this plan will take it further forward. It is already a great park. We just need to keep it moving that way and do the work which Councillor Gardner has laid out. With that, I'm happy to say.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll go to Councillor Bundy, but just by way of explanation, what he's now moving is slightly different from the original amendment. That is following discussions, and I've accepted that the addendum will be slightly different from what was originally agreed.
Thank you, Convener. I agree with everyone who's spoken so far that Calendar Park is a great asset to the Falkirk area, and it's used by people who live in Falkirk, but also tourists come and visit to see everything that's in it. One thing that I did disagree about the master plan was the implied notion that the history is reserved to the house and to the Antonine Wall, whilst the history is not elsewhere in the park. I reject that conclusion, and that's why I have brought this amendment forward, because the park's landscape has been shaped by the history. If you go to Calendar House and from the entrance look to the left, you see that there's a mound that historically is supposed to be the mound where Oliver Cromwell buried people, and also the remains of Calendar House after his troops destroyed the house during the British Civil War. The entrance to Calendar Park is reportedly been shaped for the visit of Queen Victoria, and we've also got the whole shaping of the Falkirk Union Canal is because the Forbes family that lived in Calendar Park didn't want the canal going through the forest, so they had to work with architects to protect the park's landscape, grow trees to hide the tunnel. And we also have the Battle of Falkirk Cairn, which I didn't see mentioned in the report once. And I think it's a shame when we're talking about bringing tourism in, increasing visitors, sense of place, the uniqueness of the park, when in the report there's nothing mentioned about what has helped make the park unique, what has helped shape the landscape. Our history shapes us all, and I'm not Oliver Cromwell's biggest fan, but it's shaped the park locally, and we should be celebrating that fact. And if you mention the names Cromwell, Queen Victoria, Bonnie Prince Charlie, Mary Queen of Scots on the entrance, yes, that's linked to the house, the last two names, but it should also draw people into the park. So it's bringing these things together, closer together, so we can maximise potential. I have no problem with the vision in the report. It's just adding to it and giving it more of a basis to be shaped around the uniqueness of the park, the history, and the landscape shaped by that history. So that's why in this amendment, I don't want to stop this plan. I don't want to rewrite this plan. I want to just add to this plan. I want officers to go ahead and start the work in Kinneil, which is very important as well. So that is at the heart of this amendment, just adding to the work that officers have done already rather than breaking it up and starting again.
Thank you, Councillor Bundy. You have someone to second?
Up the second.
Councillor Garner, would you be happy to accept this as an addendum to the report.
Yes, no problem, convener.
Thank you. I'll now open it up for any debate. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, convener. I don't think it's necessary to have a huge debate on this. I think we all recognise the importance of the calendar park for the people of the local communities and for the wider Falkirk Council communities, as well as for tourism. In terms of the history, I'm not a student of the history, but I do recognise the importance of the historical nature of the park. But in many respects, the much more important position of the park is what it is there for today's local communities and for today's citizens. And it is absolutely vital. And during the COVID times, it was particularly important for people locally to enable people to get out and get some fresh air and exercise. I'm very happy to support the proposal and with the addendum. And also want to thank officers because a great deal of work has gone into this. It is simply a starting point and there will be a great deal more work to do, I'm sure. But thank you very much to all the officers who have put a huge amount of work into this.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Bailey Buchanan?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay, convener?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fine. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for bringing forward this report and also totally agree with the recommendations contained within. Could I say at this stage, just for 2 minutes, first of all, I remember 31 years ago when I first joined the council, one of the first full council meetings I was at, there was a proposal brought forward to members where they wanted to sell the park and the building off for £1 at that particular time. I'm so glad that we refused to go down that line. Could I say that just 2 weeks ago, the charity that I belong to, the Anchor Som Association, we had a major event, the Purple Poppy Day and Armed Forces Day within the park. It's a wonderful, probably one of the best locations in Scotland, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank the staff and everybody else concerned. There is some issues that was brought up today in relation to parking and other issues that obviously we found out when we were actually there. But other than that, I would say that this is it's a wonderful, wonderful place, Calendar Park, and long may it continue. And hopefully with the recommendations today, it's going to enhance it further. And thanking you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey Buchanan. Councillor Spears?
Thank you. This proposal highlights a lot of what is being needed for quite a while to be done with the park. And if they want to make the park more manageable and to make greater profit and become self-sufficient, then they need to have listened to what was said a lot at briefing sessions and has been repeated today. Quite concerning that the park wants anybody that uses the park to have great health and safety concerns when they lock the gates and an ambulance can't get in. We need to seriously look at how the park's being run, and we need to run it to the best of its ability to make the greatest profit, and but also so people can enjoy it and feel safe within it. We also need, I'm glad that you are going to work with the local history associations, the William Wallace Society, the John de Graham Society, to help them have a greater future in the park and encourage a lot of people into the town. I'm especially pleased you're going to look at the caravan site, and this would be a great boost to the centre of Falkirk and to the tourist trade within the area.
Thank you. Bailey Kerr?
Hey, thanks, convener. I'm unsure if this would be for the strategy, so if it's no, just tell us, Ms. McGuinness. when I came down this morning, I passed 2 buses and 4 minibuses. They're all gone somewhere in Falkirk. Do we work with local tour company guides to highlight what's happening in Calendar Park?
I'm going to remind you about the questions again.
I know. If it's not appropriate, just say it's not for that, not for this, and I'll pick up later on.
Our tourism team are constantly looking at opportunities for how public transport connects our, huge assets across the Falkirk area. So we do constantly look at that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I see no further lights on, so can we agree the report, the amended report?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, next item is indeed the council tax second homes levy, and again I will open it up for questions. This is the opportunity to ask any questions in relation to the report. Councillor Nimmo.
Thanks. Just a quick question. Page 225, there's a breakdown by local authorities in Scotland as to the number of second homes. Just wondering, could we possibly get a breakdown by ward?
I think that has been asked previously. Do we have Paul's online? Paul Ferguson.
Sorry, Councillor Nimmo broke up there. Could you please repeat the question? Sorry.
Well, it was just to see if we could get a breakdown per ward, the number of second homes in Falkirk.
Of course, I'll provide a breakdown through the minutes for the 112 properties that are currently second homes by ward. I'll do that this week.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Spears.
Thank you. Can I ask questions? Does this just apply to people who may have holiday homes here, or people who have a housing portfolio and let them out as private lets, or people who just have an adjoining home and buy it to make one home to have 2 addresses?
Okay, Mr. Ferguson.
Yes, it would apply to various scenarios. So that the prerequisite here is you must have a property that you are liable for, that you don't occupy as your main home, and you must use that property. It must be lived at least 25 days per annum. So suppose in each scenario that Councillor Spears highlighted, that is possible, they could all fall within this policy. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't really catch them there. The sound wasn't too good.
Could you perhaps say that again, Paul?
Sorry. So Councillor Spears, the prerequisite is that this must be a property that you are liable for, that is not your main residence, and you or somebody else must live in this property at least 25 days per annum as a second home. So each scenario that you outlined, it is possible that each of those could be a second home. It's not necessarily likely they will be, but each of those scenarios could be a second home, yes.
Can you elaborate on the people who have a housing portfolio and rent them out as private lets?
So in the housing portfolio, if it's a private let, it's a short-term let, and it's usually 25 days a year, and it's not on the non-domestic rates system as a holiday home, then they could be liable for a second home levy. So if they're letting out on long-term lets, the tenant's liable. It's only about short-term lets, and it's nobody's main residence. So in terms of a property portfolio, it's not likely they'd be liable, but it is possible. We have some examples where somebody has a short-term let portfolio. It is not the resident's main residence where they're there, and therefore it is a second home. And I've had inquiries in the last 2 weeks from such landlords.
Okay, Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, convener. Paragraph 411, there's reference to the fact that 36 of the 112 second homes may actually be eligible for council buyback. Will we be actively encouraging people who may not want to pay the second homes levy to access that, given the housing crisis that we have in this area and across the whole of Scotland? It could help marginally with the housing problems.
Okay, Paul?
Yes, to you, Convener. Yes, so in the letter we wrote to all of the affected taxpayers, in the final line of Appendix 2, the final paragraph, we've highlighted to people about how the buyback operation works, and we've also given contact details for the Empty Homes team. So yes, we will encourage it, but obviously this letter was sent to all 112 owners, but we have highlighted that option for the 36 who may benefit, and we'll continue to work with those people as they engage with us through this process. So we have written to all 112. Those letters were delivered 2 weeks ago to them, either by post or where people are abroad by email.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redmond.
Thanks. Just a couple of questions. Suppose my first one would be, because I was on holiday, I missed a lot of the briefings, was we'd be looking at putting 100% levy on it. Currently, do they just pay standard council tax for a second home? Is that?
Paul?
Yes, through you, Convener. So yes, the council agreed to change the policy back in term of dates here, back in 2019. So prior to 2019, second homes paid 90%. Since 2019, they paid 100%. So the same as a household would pay if there was 2 adults present. Yes.
No, thank you. And then just my kind of other question was, 4.6 is a wee table, and it's got a breakdown of the banding and the potential levy for these properties provided below, and it's saying potentially it could be raising 141,000. But then at section 6.1, where it's the financials, it's saying will increase annual council tax income by 50,000. So how do we get for the 141 to the 50,000? Is it you think you're predicting that this will take a lot of homes? People will not have second homes anymore. Basically, they'll get rid of them. So
through you, Convener, yes. So in section 4.7, we've outlined that we believe that actually, due to experience with the long-term empty levy that we applied in 2017, we saw that reaction. People don't want to pay a higher charge, so they'll mitigate for that. Hopefully, by bringing properties into active use, but there are other mitigations available. But yes, so we forecast, based on experience locally in 2017 and nationally with second homes, that there will be mitigation, and that will bring us down to, I've said £50,000. My personal estimate is £55,000, but obviously we will see. But it's just to highlight to members that those £142,000 is what we're currently forecasting has been the impact. We do expect behaviours to change as a result of this charge, and that will be around £50,000 of net income to the council longer term.
Thanks, Paul. That's great. That's all my questions. I maybe stray a wee bit, but I think this is quite a good idea. It's bringing in a wee bit of additional revenue for the council, and obviously bringing more empty homes back into use is always a good thing, especially at this time. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bailey Kerr.
Thanks, Convener. Just leading on from Councillor Redmond's question there, Paul. So if the 109 homes that are currently second homes, if they all come back in to single ownership, we'll lose 100% rates on that, on each of the houses, so we'll be losing money. No, am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, so you could be there, yes. So if a property is currently a second home and paying 100% charge becomes occupied by one person and gets a 25% discount, which I think is what you're asking, we would lose 25% of income, yes. So, and that's in my estimate of that £50,000, that takes account that lost income as well. So my £50,000 estimate 4.7 is not just the impact of the second homes, it's a net impact of those other transactions where it's brought back into use and is a lower charge than is currently applied.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Paul. You know, we've not got an amendment. Is there an opportunity after this? Because
if there's no amendment, there's no debate.
Well, we've not had to vote for it, because we didn't agree with it. But we want to just complete opposite what it's direct negative.
Okay, Mr. Moody.
I think that's an interesting point which Bailey Kerr raises. I wonder if we could have 5 minutes standing orders on that point.
And
Thank you.
it might be an opportunity for you maybe to speak to Paul Ferguson in relation to this, because I think that you're maybe misunderstanding a little bit, because there would still be an additional income to the council, but it won't necessarily be at that level, at the 141 level, but we will get the benefit of the houses coming back into use.
I just didn't believe in the 200%. Council.
Okay, maybe a conversation with Amanda or Paul. Okay. We'll take a 10-minute recess. Okay, thank you everybody for your patience. I'll go to Mr. Moody to explain what the procedure from here on will be.
Thank you, Convener, and thank you for that brief adjournment, just to allow the opportunity to confirm the position in the standing orders. The position which has been raised is that Bailey Kerr has indicated that he in general does not agree with the proposition in the report, notwithstanding no amendment that has been submitted in advance. And the question I just needed to satisfy myself on is whether the provision in the standing orders in relation to lack of general agreement still applies, and it does. So what we will have here is a position when the motion is moved and seconded, is that there will not be general agreement. And that is, when that is the case, then there is a vote for or against the motion to the executive, but there is not a debate on the matter because there is no amendment. So broadly, that's the position, Convener, and it would now be a matter to move.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'll just move now to do exactly that. Council tax second homes levy, changes to the council tax variation of unoccupied dwellings was amended early in the year to include the option to impose a levy of up to 100% change for second homes and not just for long-term empty properties. A clear definition of what's considered as a second home is stated within the papers and helps to provide a clear and consistent understanding of that. The majority of councils have already implemented the levy, with just 3 outstanding, of which Falkirk is one. This is designed to encourage maximum use of dwellings within the council area, and it's estimated that there are around 112 second homes. All taxpayers affected will be able to access the support for our empty homes team, and of these 112, 36 are ex-council properties, the owners of which of these properties may wish to consider the council's buyback programme, and if so, this could help to meet the local demand for social housing and increase the rental stock. It's not anticipated there'll be a significant income from the implementation of the council tax higher rate, which is estimated around 50k, but any additional income, particularly when the council's finances are so pressured, are welcome. Other opportunities may be where they may be reclassified and they may be used as Airbnbs or holiday homes, and they will therefore not be classified as second homes if they meet the criteria. Income from that will then be transferred through the non-domestic rates. Officers have developed a process of advising property owners of the changes, and should that be agreed today, that will be sent out, and within that all information will be provided to assist those. I therefore move the recommendations as in the paper.
Thank you. Don't particularly want to be covered quite a lot of there, but Falkirk does have second lowest proportion of second homes in Scotland. We are a partial outlier with North Ayrshire and Glasgow out of the 32 councils in Scotland that already apply the 100% levy on second homes council tax. I agree that there's a potential for the 36 of former council houses. They could become possibly to go through purchase as part of the £8.5 million we spend per year on buying back properties. And I think it's already been covered, but I'll just repeat it. There will be a realisation of about £50,000 a year ongoing, with 15,000 in the first year. It's not a huge amount of money, but I think it's really bringing us into line with the vast majority of the rest of Scotland. I'm happy to say.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bowes. I will now ask if Councillor Hannah or any of the independents have anything they would wish to say and not submitting an amendment, because there's no debate, actually no amendment on the table. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Convener. I support the recommendation in this report. It's not going to bring in a huge amount of money, but every little helps, as they say in the advert. And if it does encourage landlords to make their properties available either privately or otherwise for letting, then it can have an impact on the housing problems we have. So we will be supporting it. We've not put forward any amendment.
Okay, thank you. Does Councillor Spears or Councillor Buchanan or Bill Buchanan have any comment they would wish to make on not submitting an amendment? No, okay. We will just go straight to the vote, and it's just a for or against.
Yes, thank you. The motion is in paragraph 3.1 of the report. It's moved by you and seconded by Councillor Bowes. And as you say, it's a vote for or against that motion. Councillor Bowes. For. Bailey Buchanan. You're on mute, I think, Bailey Buchanan. Still on mute.
You're still on mute, but
If you could maybe indicate visually, Bailey Buchanan, so if we could take your mute is off now.
Yeah, for. Thank you.
Aye.
Apologies.
Councillor Bunn.
Against.
Beacon.
For.
Councillor Devine.
For.
Councillor Garner.
For.
Councillor Hannah.
For.
Bailey Kerr.
Against.
Councillor Meekleton.
for.
Councillor Nimmo. For. Councillor Patterson.
For.
Councillor Redmond.
For.
Councillor Sinclair.
For.
And Councillor. There are 12 votes for the motion, 2 votes against. The motion is carried.
Okay, thank you for that. We will move on now to the Treasury Management Annual Review. And again, questions first. Any questions in relation to the report? Hannah?
Yes, thank you, convener. I just wanted to refer particularly to, first of all, I can find the right page. I come back, please, convener.
Okay. Any other questions in relation to the report? Okay, okay.
Just leave it, convener.
Yeah, I'm sure officers will be able to pick that up. Okay, I'll just go to move the report. Treasury Management, this is the final report in the suite of 3, Treasury Management Strategy and the interim review, and is a retrospective look at the capital activity, the implications of that, the prudential indicators and our borrowing and investments, details of which has already been reported to members in the outcome report. Borrowing requirement was in line with what had been reported in January, and members will see that the majority of the new borrowing relates to the housing revenue account. The aim is to seek to provide assurance to members on the management of the sustainability of our capital activity, taking into account economic and other environmental factors that may impact positively or negatively on that. It is highlighted in paragraph 5.7.3 that we did breach the prudential indicators marginally. We have an upper limit for short-term borrowing of 35%, and at the year end, our short-term borrowing was 35.2%. However, all borrowing was undertaken using our Treasury advisors, and their advice continues on the short-term basis to avoid being locked into higher-term rates. Given the financial pressures, we will, however, need to consider how sustainable the borrowing levels are going forward, and that will be constantly monitored. The key driver which influences, as a council, our ability to borrow is the bank rate, and they need to stimulate or depress depending on the state of the economy. Going forward, the rates are still not coming down as quickly as we would like. Long-term rates remain quite high. Inflation increasing, this may delay rate rises further, and it could mean that some borrowing is unaffordable going forward. We therefore need to give great consideration to when and where borrowing occurs. as we go towards the budget for next year. I just thank officers for putting together the report, which is extensive and continually providing advice and assurance to members. I'm happy to move the report. Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sorry, Convener, with the new standing orders there, I got a wee bit confused with the thorn against the eyes and nose. Not to duplicate anything that you've said there, Convener, I am happy to say report. It's something that we see quite often at both executive council, so you're happy to say.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sinclair, and I'm glad you quickly remembered what forum you were in. No, no, it's the first time I've been called Madam Speaker. I've been called a lot of things, but never that. Okay, as there is no amendment, I will go to Councillor Hannah first of all.
We have no amendment. This is a retrospective report, and if I can remember what my question was, I'll come back to officers later on, as usual. Thanks to the officers.
Thank you. Bailey Kerr?
No comment. Yeah, it's self-explanatory.
Thank you. Councillor Spears?
I would like to thank Amanda. It was a good report, and I look forward to the future budget deliberations.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Spears. Councillor Buchanan? Okay, I think he said he was happy. I'd be happy to agree the report.
Agreed.
Okay. Next item is the revenue financial projection 24-25, and again the opportunity to ask officers questions. I'll just open that up now for any questions. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Convener. Just a couple of questions. First of all, in 5.1.5, there's reference to the teacher numbers question. Can I check that the situation is the same as it has previously been reported and as it is reported here, that if there is any reduction in teacher numbers below the 1630, then it would be likely that there would be a penalty imposed by the Scottish Government of up to 4.4 million.
Amanda?
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. John might want to come in on this as well, but so the summary statistics for Scotland, the number is 1,680. So anything below that, potentially subject to a penalty. However, there's a lot of lobbying happening with the Scottish Government to try and prevent that happening nationally. And also the Scottish Government have indicated that there could be mitigation, which means that the value of the penalty would reduce, but we don't know how that mitigation would work. I think that was probably the case maybe just before the recess, and that at this point has.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. The other question I had was...
Councillor Hannah, I think Mr Reid wanted to come back in there. Okay, Mr John.
Yes, thank you. It's just to add to what Amanda said there, that we also have planned meetings with senior civil servants at the Scottish Government in the diary to take place regarding our teacher number position. So it's just to add that bit of information. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question I had was in relation to Appendix 2. I realise we can't go through it, and I did ask questions and got answers from Amanda earlier before the meeting. But I do have some concerns about the way these savings are forward, because some of them are decisions which have already been taken, some are decisions which are yet to be taken. And I wonder if for future reference there could be more clarity about what are actual decisions already taken, what are decisions yet to be taken, and what are operational and what are council decisions. I would appreciate that for the future.
Amanda?
Thanks. We'll have a look at how we present this appendix going forward, because we did get a couple of questions. I think all the savings in here will have been subject to decision if that was appropriate. So there's nothing in there that is still to be decided. So, for example, all the fees and charges are separated out in here. So everything will either have been approved through a decision at council or through the fees and charges increases, or they will be operational, in which case they were viewed to have not a significant impact on service users for frontline services, and the delegation was with chief officers just as part of their natural duties. So there shouldn't be anything in there that is still to be decided.
Could I maybe have a wee bit of clarification, because the list that you did send me when I asked the question said that some things were to be considered. Is that not the same as to be decided?
Yeah, but I think my email, and apologies if it didn't, it should have, when I sent it to someone else and I clarified that where it said to be considered, that had already been approved, but it's just because that's how it shows in our finance system when the reports come off. So apologies if I didn't make that clear in my email. But those to be considered were essentially the ones that were to go in front of members for approval, as opposed to the operational ones, and that was kind of how we allocated them in the system. Apologies.
Thank you. And finally, I think this may be a question for Mr. Moody rather than for yourself, Amanda. It's about the distinction, and a decision is made that this is an operational decision, and what point it's made that it's a decision that should come to executive or the council. But I'm not sure if he heard my question because he was busy.
I think that actually might be for the chief executive around what's operational and what's not. Can it just before I bring Kenneth in, can I ask members to bring the microphone closer to each other because there's still issues with the sound, so that people, particularly online, can hear.
Thank you, Convener. I think the test is the impact in terms of the delivery of the services. So if it's a saving can be made that has no impact in terms of delivery of services to the public, that would normally be an operational decision. To change a policy for something that will have an impact, then that would be a decision that would come before me.
And can I clarify who makes that decision, of which it is?
Well, in terms of developing the proposal and bringing forward the report, these are matters which we would consider and debate firstly within services and then the corporate management team before the report was final.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nimmo.
Convener, still on teachers here, it's maybe a question more for John Reid than yourself, Amanda. We've got the quotas for teachers. I'm just wondering, what are the implications for probationer teachers? How are they placed there?
Okay, Mr. Reid.
Yeah, the number of teachers that we need, which this year is around 1,630, includes probationer teachers in that total. So they are counted as one FTE, if you like, in terms of meeting or going some way to meeting our target. So we've taken a full cohort of probationers this year, as we have in every other year as well.
Thank you. Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Convener. I just wonder, and this is a question probably directed at Mr. Reid, if he could perhaps go some way to explain how the teacher numbers, that number of, for example, 68 we heard earlier on, how that's set, if that can be clarified for executive.
I can, yes, thank you. So we do a calculation based on the number of pupils that are within our primary, secondary and ASN schools, and that comes to a particular total. The annual census return that goes to Scottish Government in September confirms as to whether or not we have met the target that has been set. Now, normally our target in previous years has been around 1,650 teachers, but roles, of course, across Falkirk are going down, so we don't need 1,615 teachers. Hence, that's why we're aiming for a slightly lower target. The government came back with a target just over 1,680, and that was based on the previous year's census submission, where we gained from an additional number of probationers that were given to Falkirk, but the government then included that in the target for the next year. So the target went up from 1,653 up to 1,681 based on some probationer gain during that year, and that's what we're discussing with the government and with civil servants at the moment. So the target is artificial, and we do not need that target to fully staff our schools and make sure that we're delivering everything across all of our sectors. Does that make it clear?
Thank you. I believe that's helpful.
Thank you.
Found it helpful.
Okay, thank you. Daily Care.
Thanks, Convener. A couple of questions for Amanda. On page 267, CS 138, reduction in consortia travel costs. What is consortia?
All right, okay. Yeah, Mr. Reid, you want to take that one?
Yeah, just to say what consortia is. Consortia are the arrangements that are made between schools to make sure that pupils across Falkirk have got access to all the subjects they need at every level. So if there is a particular course, say an advanced higher or even a higher or whatever it is, that's not running in one school, but it's running in another school, because we have aligned timetables, there's the opportunity for that pupil to travel to that school and join that class. Now, we're increasingly doing that through virtual means, so we're using Connected Falkirk programme to facilitate that, so we don't have pupils moving around the council, but occasionally we do have to taxi pupils between schools so they can get to that school on time and then back from that school to join the rest of their timetable in their base school. But the number of pupils who that arrangement applies to is decreasing all the time as we continue to increase the use of Connected Falkirk. But it just makes sure that all pupils get access to all the subjects they need, so that if they need that, it helps them move on to college or university or whatever it is they're moving on to.
Great answer, Mr. Reid. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On page 270, I don't know how we had one or why we've had one, but what was the tobacco officer? That's what it says.
Apologies, Billy. I believe the question was, what does tobacco post officer do?
Aye.
So they carry out test purchases. They ensure that retailers are labelling and not raising tobacco to youth. For example, they interject where there is any tax avoidance, working with the HMRC and other authorities to make sure there's not illegal importing of tobacco across the area. So involving a whole range of different activities to make sure that tobacco is sold legally and within the right frameworks.
Does that include vapes as well?
It would include vapes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Mr. McGuinness. There's, as we get every year, there's loads of items here for saving, and in the second column, it's voluntary. But with the reduction in so many services, nobody seems to talk about compulsory redundancies. Sometime this council will need to, because I didn't want anybody to be unemployed, but kind of keep on reducing, keeping the same staff with reduced service. So it's got to come at a time where we need to speak. Thanks.
That wasn't really a question. Okay, Councillor Spears.
Very well. Page 255, the education over budget by 1.489 million. Now there is on 5.1.5, but it says that there is, however, as the teaching numbers are far lower than the largest the Scottish Government expects. So what do they mean by the largest? Are we reduced teacher numbers, or are we larger than a bigger authority? Or what does it exactly mean?
Yeah, I think Amanda will take that one.
Thank you, Councillor Spears. So the report's saying that the teacher numbers are lower than the target that the Scottish Government have put in, and that's what Councillor Hannah had asked about earlier, which is the 1683. So that goes back to the potential for a financial penalty, but that's the negotiations that are still happening with the government. They are happening on a national basis, and John was referring to the meetings that are happening with the Scottish Government this week.
So you're saying they're larger than the national average, but they're lower than the largest in Scotland?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by largest. I'm not seeing.
It's the wording here.
Where's
If you read 5.1.5,
yes.
However, as the teaching numbers are far lower than the target Scottish Government expect. Sorry, I've misread that one. We're saying as their teacher numbers are far lower than the target set for the government.
Yes.
Will that cover the shortfall of 1.489 million?
No, we think that we are going to need 1,630 teachers, and we've noted in paragraph 5.1.5 that the original budgeted figure was for 1,620 teachers. So the figures that are in the table above are showing that we think we will overspend on teachers. That's where that 1,489 comes, because we budgeted for 10 less than we will need.
What message does that send out to parents?
I'm not sure that's really a question for officers, to be honest. I think it's unfair to put them on the spot in relation to that. Councillor Bundy?
It's just a quick question regarding what position are we currently in regarding the Teachers' Pay Award? Do you have any updates?
Thank you, Convener. So the pay offer has been amended and increased, and that has been made to all SGIC trade unions at this point in time. The negotiations with SNCT, who represent the teachers, had, however, paused over the summer holiday period, and that was at the request of the teacher trade unions, because they don't want to be in those negotiations over that period. So there has been communication back with SNCT, and that will start to re-engage with them about the negotiations and the revised offer very soon.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I'll just go through the report. This is the first report of the quarter, with a projected underspend of just over 3 million. A number of the areas of underspend are mainly around employee vacancy and vacancy management, with other areas of service coming in budget. It has been highlighted children's social work in particular is coming in budget. However, Children's Services, as we've just been discussing, has indicated an overspend, and it's anticipated that this will remain an area of pressure around Children's Services within education. While it's a positive position and demonstrates the robust management of budgets, the report only covers the first few months, therefore could be subject to variation throughout the year as there are many moving parts. Lots of risks are still remain within the system for 2024-25. We've just referred to the pay awards, and as has been indicated, the SGC have had a revised pay award, and there's a ballot undergoing, and we're about to go into negotiation for the teachers. Similarly, interest rates are potential to change, and we still have the ongoing issues we've heard around teacher numbers. We have both UK and Scottish governments highlighting very difficult discussions to come, and we're starting to see some of those come forward, and this may indeed affect the monies anticipated to come to local government in the future. There are concerns around the additional funding in relation to the teacher numbers following the budget provided, ring-fence budget provided by the Cabinet Secretary in February of the 145.5 million for the teacher numbers. This has still to be resolved. Falkirk's share of that 145.5 million would be 4.4, and this would be depending on us maintaining the teacher numbers as set by the government at 1,683. However, due to the falling roles in the teacher numbers, we actually only require 1,630. This would still be above the budget figure and would indeed result in an overspend of £500,000. If we were to fall short of the Scottish government numbers, this could easily result in a penalty of the 4.4, and discussions are continuing, as we've heard from Mr Reid and through COSLA, as no local authority has reached an agreement on the grant letter as yet. Other areas of pressure for the revenue budget are around pay, interest rates, energy costs, all of which are variable and the Council has very little control over. There are savings targets for 24-25, which are reported in a healthy position at 87% on target, with the remaining savings reported as amber. However, should any of those savings targets not be realised, this will result in an overspend. As part of the service concessions, as part of the budget, service concessions have been used to help meet the 24-25 projected budget gap, and that was 17.294 million. And as noted that previously, that any underspends will be used to reduce the use of service concessions. The remainder of the budget was balanced, which was used of 22.5, but that has reduced, and we only estimate now using 17.3. But there are significant uncertainties in that. It's also noted that we agreed to earmark 30 million of the service concessions for capital investment. This would only be applied when the Council is more financially stable, and this has allowed the reserves, the main general reserve, to remain at the upper end of the reserve strategy. Turning to the housing revenue account, in June it reported an overspend due to increase in repair costs, and as a result, reserves have had to be deployed to meet that budget gap. While it's acknowledged that this should have been picked up at an earlier date and corrective actions taken, there has now been significant work in order to rebalance the budget and a plan to bring the reserves back onto target. There's a lot of work going on between housing to try and resolve the positions and to make sure that housing is in a better position going forward. But there will continue to remain pressures on property. I'm therefore happy to move the revenue account and ask that members note the report. Councillor Bowes.
Thank you, Convener. You're right. There's an amount of positivity to it, but I've got to say, in 7 years, plus 3 months are very indicative that there can be quite major changes. In fact, if you actually look at Children's Services overspend of 1.489 million, it's
probably that's a relatively low number in comparison to what I've seen in the past. I've seen it 4.5 million in the past at this stage, with pressure still to come. But it's just not a reflection of where it will be towards the end of the year. I think later reports in a similar vein will give us a better idea of where we're going to end up at the end of the year. But you've got to take a snapshot of time that's here. Appreciate that we do have, and it's positive that we have, we're projected to spend 3 million below budget. Capital loan charges are 1.36 million, also below budget, and the energy costs are currently expected at 0.9 below budget. Although I think we're all quite aware that it's been trailed very recently. The prices are just about to go up, and they do suspect that'll be by 9%. So that's the type of idea, an example of the pressures that will hit us. We've also come through, I think we'll call it summer, just call it wet period, and we've not came to the winter yet, and there can be additional costs which will also impact on us if we do have an inclement, a really bad one. So yes, the figures for the general fund look reasonably good at this point in time, but please remember the number of pressures which the leader of the council has already laid out, but also we do have things like winters and things like that to come as well, which will affect it. On housing, I agree that there has been an overspend to the point where having to use some reserves. However, there is extensive actions being taken. Those have been relayed to council, and what we're doing to bring that back, and hopefully by the end of the year. Again, it's still early for where we are in housing. Hopefully by the end of the year that'll be a better picture. So with that, I'm happy to say.
Thank you, Councillor Bowes. I'll now go to Councillor Hannah in relation to no amendment on the capital programme.
Thank you, Convener. This is a report just updating us on the rather dire financial position that we are regularly updated upon. So we have no amendment put forward, just thanks to Amanda and to the staff who've done a great deal of work and to answer all my daft questions very, very politely and very thoroughly. So thank you to the officers. We have no amendment to it because it is a noting report and it is updating us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bailey Kerr.
Not a comment, just to thank Amanda and Danny and the team. The non-changes for year to year is difficult every year, and it's how we manage these budgets and savings is how we shape council. So thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Spears or Councillor Buchanan, any comments in relation to no amendment?
No.
Just to thank Amanda and the team, and to say that this does not augur well for the upcoming budget. I think Councillor Kerr hinted on the only way forward is dire, and that we have really difficult decisions to make regarding jobs, especially in the future, if we want to try and balance our budget.
Okay, are we happy to note the report?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, the final in the suite of finance reports is the capital programme update, and I will open it up for opportunities for any questions in relation to the capital programme report. Councillor Spears.
I think this is agenda item 12.
No, it is item 10, capital programme update. Okay, sorry, Bailey Kerr.
Just a quick one. Page 283, at the bottom panel where it's regarding repairs done for court cladding. Is this the only high rise, they'll be getting bad and repaired.
Yeah. Paul, are you with us?
I am. Apologies. This is the only one that requires cladding. Obviously, the rest are done at different times. This is the last one to be completed. We're in full ownership of that block, and obviously the works are due to start very shortly. So it's not because others aren't getting it; others have had it already.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks.
Okay, if there are no further questions in relation to the report to officers, I'll just move the report. Both general and the capital programmes have been adjusted following the end of year outturn, and that has then reassessed what's deliverable and realistic for 24-25. It includes changes in reprofiling due to slippage, inflationary costs, timescales of supplying goods and services, etc. Inflation, while it has fallen and there are early signs of recovery, the market remains unstable due to national and global factors, and as a result, short-term borrowing remains our best option. The capital programme going forward will shows the investment reducing, given the high borrowing costs, and the position is likely to remain unchanged. Therefore, we need to keep that in mind going forward, and it's likely that borrowing needs to be kept to a minimum. General capital programme, following its revision, agreed in March, and it was revised from 52.7 million down to 45.7 to align with the resources. And this has required projects to be profiled into future years, and that the details of those are within the papers. These projects are quite critical for our communities and will help support our communities, such as the investment, sport and leisure, open space enhancements, school extensions, and other capital improvements within our school estates, as well as a suite of energy efficiency and carbon reduction. Housing capital programme again was approved as a budget of 58.3 million, which is slightly higher than what was forecast, and again that will be adjusted in year in order to meet with the programme. It continues to cause a bit of anxiety, particularly in line with our Treasury management, and will need to be reviewed what's actually achievable in the longer term, depending on the current climate. And I'm happy to move the capital update report this year. Councillor Rice?
Thank you, Convener. I agree that there's still a bit of instability in the money market side of things, which is obviously when we're talking about capital, that becomes very important. There was a very small drop in the interest rate, but with, as I said earlier, fuel costs going up potentially in October by 9%, that could put additional pressures on inflation. There's additional pressures on inflation. It's unlikely there'll be a quick drop in interest rate, although I do read some things that some people are talking about June next year. It could be as low as 3.25% interest rate, but how they're coming to that with, I think, increasing costs. But increasing costs, increased inflation. You increase inflation, don't tend to cut your interest rates. But we'll, saying goes, we can only see how that goes, and how that progresses. Projects which we've got, and there is lists, a great list of projects that we do, and these projects are for people of Falkirk and for the benefit of the people of Falkirk. And this is in top of the general fund, and that's before you get to the housing capital, which is a direct benefit to the people who are tenants, to improve their houses and also to build new houses as well. And I think I'd mentioned earlier on the £8.5 million that we do in property buybacks every year. There is a slight overspend on it, but it was touched on by the leader of the council, but that'll be adjusted in the 5-year programme going forward, so that should hopefully be able to be controlled relatively well. But yes, we are looking at our costs. When you look at normal inflation and being at 2.2%, I think it is at the moment, the construction inflation isn't run at the same level It has for quite some time ran a lot higher, and in some years it was running closer to 30%. But even that has calmed down at the moment. But hopefully it will stay there. But it's cumulative, remember. So even if it's at 3.6% just now, was the last one I saw, that's cumulative over years where it's been 15%, 30%. And that's putting quite a strain on what we plan. I understand there's a 50-year sheet somewhere to do what we're doing in capital spend. But you've got to welcome homes moving forward at Wood End, Buck Gardens and Line Leys, and obviously the bank project, which are all good. But doors and windows, and in recent times we've been obviously been on a few doors, and I was in the Carnshore area and I was speaking to people that had these new doors and windows, and they absolutely think they're fantastic. The difference for heat, which means that you're using less hydrocarbons because they're not burning the gas, as well as the sound quality of them in their houses just look that bit better as well, with good quality windows. So there's a lot of positives in what we're doing spending capital. Capital is what is we're using the rents of the people plus the Scottish Government grant, which obviously just last year. But it is a positive thing for the people of Falkirk. And with that, I'm happy to second.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Convener. We have no amendments to this report. Obviously, it's a concern, as are all the financial reports that we receive. But thank you to the officers for their work and no amendment.
Bailey Kerr.
Obviously no amendment, but I would just like to highlight what Councillor Bowes mentioned about the doors and windows making a difference. Personally, I would rather invest in them first and buy electric cars, because it gives a better feel for the residents of Falkirk. However, they're in that position at the moment. But, no amendments.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Spears, Councillor Buchanan.
No amendment.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are we happy to note the report?
Read.
Okay, moving on to item 11 is the participation in the Scottish Procurement Framework for the supply of natural gas. I'll open it up for any questions to officers in relation to this item. No questions? Councillor Spears?
Just maybe if we can get an update on the gas supply to Slamanan.
I don't have information readily available, but I'm happy to provide an update to Councillor Spears, Convener.
Indeed, that's fine. Thank you. Okay.
Can I request I ask the question on behalf of...
Okay.
know how strong the council is on health and safety, so I wouldn't make any comment. Can I request, as the question was on behalf of Councillor Mackie Brown, if you could forward all details and updates of what's happening, if there is delays and how the delays are being handled. Thank you.
I will remind you that wasn't really part of this report yet again, Councillor Spears, so and that could have been asked out with the meeting. If there are no further questions, I'll go to move the report. Falkirk Council has already been as part of the Scottish Procurement Framework purchasing of power, gas, water, wastewater billing services along with other councils. These benefits allow the council to get best value using the power of collective purchasing and the economies of scale for the whole of the public sector, reducing the procurement costs that would have been incurred in a single bid alone from the council. Estimated cost through the framework over the 2-year period is 9.19 million based on the historical energy consumption. There are other benefits that come with the participation within the contract beyond best price, which is the Community Investment Fund of £10,000. And this is available for charities, social and environment investment projects, as well as educational materials and energy efficiency to support stakeholders in working within the community. I therefore suggest that this is very much a best value proposal and recommend that Council agree. Councillor Devine?
Happy to second.
Okay. Councillor Hannah?
We have no amendments.
Okay, thank you. Bailey Kerr?
No amendments.
Councillor Spears or Councillor Buchanan? No.
No. No.
You're happy to agree?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, moving on to item 12, which is the sale of land at former municipal buildings, Falkirk Town Hall, Westbridge Street, Falkirk, and I will open up for questions to officers first. Councillor Spears.
It's regarding recommendations on page 299, 212. It's agreed as the price is subjective to suspensive conditions, potential judgment of proven abnormal costs. See, we've delegated this to the head of planning, the director. Can you tell me what these abnormal costs are likely to be?
Mr. Kettrick.
We're unable to advise what those abnormal costs would be in terms of their monetary value, but we can advise that things that would typically fall into abnormal costs would be items relating to ground conditions that were not identified previously as part of the market material or the information that is readily available to the proposed developers. It may also relate to items relating to things aligned with statutory consents, again, that were not previously identified within the planning statement. So that is why they are demonstrably proven abnormal costs that the developers wouldn't be available for when they made their bid.
I think you're probably right with the ground conditions. As most people know, that surrounding Falkirk Town Centre's very sandy conditions, like where we're building the new town hall, problems with the two previous buildings, the former municipal buildings and the calendar centre. When you build on sand, be prepared for trouble. So will that affect any
Councillor Spears,
kind
what's your
of finance
question,
that we
please?
might get?
Can I have your question?
Will that affect any finance that we will get for the sale of this land?
Okay,
That's what the objective's about.
Well, and that was the question. That's a valid question to ask.
Convener, as stated in my previous response, these are proven abnormal costs that the developer would be unaware of at the start. What I wouldn't want to do is to start speculating at this stage in relation to the ground conditions on that site, which may actually affect the council commercially, particularly in a public forum.
Okay, are there any further questions for officers?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, apologies, Councillor Buchanan, Bailey Buchanan.
Yes, thank you. First of all, can I say that this is the first time that I've been on the executive committee, and secondly, the format in relation to questions and then maybe general debate. The first question I'm going to ask is in relation to the process of this committee. I'll tell you the reason how I'm asking this to yourself, convener, is that I received the agenda for this committee on last Saturday morning, but previous to that, there was social media, I think it was on the Wednesday or Thursday, was highlighting the fact that this item was coming before the council for members to take a decision. Now, the issue for me for that is that I thought that this actually should have been on pink paper, because since it was on social media, there's been numerous people that have responded to this, given their interpretation of what councillors should do. So that puts councillors under different types of pressure. What I'm saying is that in terms of this type of what we could say recommendations coming to us, then I don't believe, my own personal opinion, that this business should have been conducted in the public forum at the beginning. I believe that this item should have been on pink paper and a decision taken then. So that's the first.
Okay.
That's my first question.
I'll get answers to both of those points for you. The first one, I'll go to Mr. Moody about the issuing of the papers and the timing of that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Convener. And the agenda is now issued 2 weeks in advance of the meeting, and any social media communication from the council would have been coincident with the issuing of the agenda. And that's to allow the public, members of the public, to know what the business is that's going to be transacted at the executive. So I think there's nothing difficult happened in that. That is just drawing to the attention of the citizens of the Falkirk Council area what business is to be transacted at the executive of council. On the second question of the question, should this have been an exempt item or a public item? Well, it is an option for a council to have an exempt item, but in discussion with colleagues in place services, there wasn't any identified commercial issue which would have required that. And the starting point should always be, for the purpose of transparency, that items which can be in public should be in public. So for those reasons, I don't think there's anything untoward in relation to the issuing of the agenda or the report.
Okay, thank you. Colin, further question?
Yeah, a further question. And thank you very much for the answer. I'm not going to say that I totally agree with it, but in terms of page 300 and the considerations, at the closing date, several offers were received, and it goes on to tell you about the bids that was received. Now, what I believe is that in terms of openness and transparency, that a decision then was taken by officers to agree the bid that's in front of us today. Now, should it not be, because of the significance of this situation and the major costs involved, that it should have been members that take this decision, and should we not have been made aware of all the bids? And when this report was coming forward, then the bids should all been there, and then it would be up to the members to make the final decision, because we haven't got any other information other than that BDW Trading Limited had their own climate charges, and at the end of the day, they believe that the officers have taken the decision that their bid, obviously through their professional expertise, but I believe that something so significant like this, it should have been down to the members. Thank you for that.
Okay, I'll go to Mr. Moody about that to answer that particular question.
I think the first point I would make is that, first of all, in recommendation 1, members are being asked to agree. So there isn't a decision being made by officers. What there has been is a professional assessment of the bids and the recommendation to you of which is the appropriate bid to have before you. And my advice would be that's an appropriate exercise of the operational role of your chief officers. And it wouldn't be a matter to have all the bids placed in front of you in a report and for members to be sifting through the details of those. So I think, again, there's nothing untoward that I can see in the way that the report has been put together.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Redmond.
Thanks, Convener. Just to confirm, is this offer subject to gaining planning permission? The first question.
Convener, yes.
Yeah. And then obviously we've kind of touched on it already. It was talking about abnormal costs will be deducted from the sale of the site. at what level would that come back to members? Say, for example, they hit an abnormal cost and they wanted to deduct £1 million off the cost. Would that then come back to members for approval, or who would agree that?
Mr. Kettrick.
Convener, as we've set out in the report, it's proven abnormal costs, and the intention is that they are delegated to the Director of Place Services to negotiate any variations on the price, subject to them continuing to represent the best value in terms of the offers that have been received.
Right, thanks. And then just kind of following on in Bailey Buchanan's questions, was this the only bid? If not, how many bids were there? And was this the highest bid?
In terms of the number of bids, there was a substantial amount of bids that were received. In terms of the bids that were received, this did represent the best value. Again, we don't publish all the bids that are received because, again, that could prejudice the Council's commercial interest in any future negotiations, particularly where there is the provision for the deduction of abnormal costs.
Thanks. That's kind of all my questions. All I would say, I don't know, it's getting maybe against the rules, but I think it's a good offer for the site. It would be good to see the site coming back into use. Barrett Developments, there are.
If you stop there, Councillor Redmond, I'll let that go. If you stop there, fine.
All right.
Okay. Councillor Bundy.
Thank you, Convener. In point 5.1, so page 300 on to 301, it says that there were several key criteria that these bids were analysed through. One of them is planning considerations, including Section 75 contributions. I thought Section 75 contributions would be considered at planning rather than at this stage. So just some clarity on that.
Convener, yes, as part of the planning statement, we highlighted the contributions that would be required to be met from the site in terms of provision of things such as affordable housing and contributions towards other things. The offers that were received had to state their compliance with those at those early stages. And whilst you're correct, they are part of the planning process. We didn't want at a later date for those to become negotiable and affect the land value element.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nimmo.
Thanks, Convener. Just on the back of Councillor Redmond's question, best value doesn't necessarily mean the highest bid. Was it the highest bid?
It is the highest bid. However, I've always at pains to point out it represents the best value for the site. That is the definition in terms of the legislation for it.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, I'll go to Councillor Garner to move the report.
Thank you, Convener. I'm really glad to see this progressing. It is strange driving past and seeing the building no longer there. I'm not missing the offices, as I'm sure others aren't, but I do miss the council chambers and indeed the fish pond at the old municipal buildings. As you see, the purpose of this report is to seek approval to dispose of the land at the former municipal buildings and town hall site to BDW Trading Limited, which is a subsidiary of Barrett Homes, which also includes David Wilson Homes brand, for a sum of £6,239,417. This will be subject to future negotiations on site abnormalities and any additional requirements associated with statutory consents. The site area is approximately 9 acres and was subject to previous reports associated with the new Falkirk Town Hall Arts Centre and the closure of the Falkirk Town Hall, which declared the site surplus and for it to be sold. Following agreement to acquire Calendar Square, the site was marketed with the benefit of a planning statement for approximately 5 months. With significant interest, a closing date in June was set, and following this, officers evaluated the offers received as outlined in 5.1. The offer from BDW was considered the offer that represents the best value, as Mr. Kettrick has mentioned on a few occasions. As outlined in the report, there may be deductions on this proposed disposal price associated with site abnormalities or additional requirements associated with the statutory consents not provided for in the marketing particulars and in particular the planning statement. As approved previously, the receipt minus the contribution to the Falkirk Common Good Fund of £200,000 will accrue to general services and support the business case for the new Town Hall Arts Centre. In conclusion, the disposal of the site as set out in the report represents the best value for the council, with the future development creating additional homes, which in turn will support the regeneration of the town centre. The proposed disposal receipt will also support the delivery of the new town hall, which will act as a catalyst for the wider delivery of the council's town centre regeneration vision and master plan. Happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. I'm happy to second the report. As you've said, that this particular site has great significance, partly because of the size of the site and helping to support the economic regeneration of the town centre, and that catalytic effect that we dreadfully need in building the town centre back to what it should be, a bustling area. Also, it will deliver much needed housing, including affordable housing for the area, and it would make best use of this particular site going forward. So I'm happy to second the report. I'll now go to Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Convener. Just want to say I'm very pleased to see that we're making progress on this. The sooner we can have our replacement town hall, the better. And thanks to the officers for making the progress that they are making, and encourage them to keep on making progress at the quickest rate. We have no amendments to this. I look forward to further reports.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey Kerr.
No amendment. Like Councillor Edmund, very happy with the outcome of the bids. I'm sure that the new owners, if supported today, will bring a plan forward that will enhance Falkirk Town Centre. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Spears. Councillor Buchanan.
Yes. Councillor Spears, I bow to you.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. I look forward to seeing how we progress in this area and how the best value is spread amongst our town.
Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you very much. Now, obviously, we're all entitled to our opinion, and I showed my opinion at the very beginning. I was totally against the destruction of the former municipal buildings, and also the town hall, which I thought was an absolute disgrace. But the fact is that in terms of this, is it possible for me to put an amendment forward at this stage?
No, I'm sorry, Councillor Buchanan.
No, okay.
Amendments had to be in by Tuesday lunchtime.
That's fine. Thank you very much. So what I would just like to say, this is quite clear, and would actually like this minuted for future reference. I stated quite clearly when we were doing the town hall that I had serious concerns about the possibilities about the situation up in the town centre. I had really serious concerns about it. I think Councillor Spears has already touched on the possibility about the ground, about the sand, etc. So what I would like to see is, obviously, we all want to see the regeneration of the town centre. Every town centre in the UK is suffering the same situation. The issue for me is that I would like to see that the old municipal building area and the town hall area is put into a major new car park. Now, I say that quite clearly because when you're talking about regenerating the town centre of Falkirk, you've got to ensure that you get proper car parking there. Falkirk Town Centre.
Councillor Buchanan, there's no amendment, so you really, this is an opportunity to say why you hadn't put an amendment forward. There's not a debate. There's no debate because there is no debate, no amendment, so there's no debate.
So, all right. So there's no amendment for anybody, but I'm not allowed to give my opinion.
Well, if there is no amendment, there is no debate.
there is no debate. So my opinion doesn't matter then. My opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah, you had the opportunity to put forward something, but the papers were out 14 days before the meeting. And that was your opportunity at that point, if you had a different point of view, to put that forward by way of an amendment.
But surely you were asking people if they wanted to come forward and speak. First of all, you go through the process.
It was to ask why you hadn't put the amendment forward.
So I'm not allowed, okay, so because I hadn't put an amendment forward, I'm not allowed to speak on the issue.
Okay, I'm going to go to Mr. Moody to give an explanation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. And maybe just a broad recap of the provisions which were agreed by the Council following the recommendations of the Standing Orders Working Group was that amendments, when they were to be made to items of business, should be in advance. So that was to allow people to have advance notice of any items which were there for debate. And one of the consequences of that is when there was no amendment put in advance, then the provision of the standing orders now are that there is no debate on that item. But there is an opportunity preserved for group leaders and for the independent members of the executive to have an opportunity to explain why they didn't put in an amendment. That isn't an opportunity to have a general contribution on the item itself. It's a more focused contribution, and that is the point, Convener, I think, which you've been making well to Bailey Buchanan.
Fine. Well, can I say this in closing? With all due respect to everybody concerned, I think that this is disgraceful, and it's taken away the democratic right of elected members to speak up on behalf of their communities. Thank you.
Just to remind people, this was agreed at Council. So elected members did have the opportunity, if they didn't agree with what was proposed at that point, to be able to put something different forward, but it was agreed at Council.
Not by me.
I do believe you were present, Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you very much.
Can I get a point of clarity, Convener?
Okay, right.
So what you're stating, Mr. Moody, is if an amendment is there 2 days before it and there is questions being asked prior to an agenda item, you then can't put an amendment in.
That's the broad starting point, yes. That's the principle.
Okay.
Could you maybe remind just members of the process, and that was one of the reasons for having papers issued in advance, 10 days in advance?
So there are a number of changes that have been introduced in the revised standing orders. One is that the agendas are issued 2 weeks in advance rather than a week in advance. So this allows a full opportunity for members and groups, where members are part of the group, have an opportunity to consider the implications of any of the items of business, to ask questions of officers in advance, and allow groups or individual members to formulate any amendment where they don't know what is being proposed. The amendments are to be in advance to allow the members of either the executive or the council to be able to see any motion or amendment in advance, to understand the issues which are debated, potentially to allow the opportunity for discussion and compromise in advance of the meeting of the executive or the council. And we saw an example of that, I think, in relation to the amendment initially submitted in relation to the calendar park management plan, then adjusted following discussion and ultimately agreed by the movers of the motion. So we have seen that an amendment can be put in advance. There is adequate time to do that. There's adequate flexibility to allow for that adjustment where there has been subsequent discussion. But that's the broad framework by the council.
Just point of information. Is it correct to say that to further amend this, take it back to some sort of normality, that we would need to wait for 6 months and bring back a motion to the 6 months rule?
Council's decision agreeing the new standing orders is protected by the 6 month rule in the same way as every other. Okay, thank you.
Could I possibly ask you just to add to that, Mr. Moody? Sorry, Vera. The circumstances in which it might be the case that there would be an exceptional arrangement for an amendment the day before or on the day. I think that might clarify things.
I think that's a helpful question. Thank you. And yes, the position I'm setting out is the starting point, to which there could be an exception if there was information which formed the basis of an amendment which wasn't known at the time in which amendments should be submitted. But that's not the same as waiting to ask the question on the morning of the executive and formulating the amendment at that point.
Thanks, because that's what I was trying to get at, but Councillor Hannah I sprung forward. And it wasn't clear until you made it clear. Thanks.
Okay, we come to the final item on the agenda, and this was a motion that stood referred from Council to the Executive on...
Convener, has that been agreed then? Sincere apologies, but are we agreed because you haven't finalised or concluded that last item? We're still in discussions with Mr. Moody and members. Have you concluded that item?
There is no amendment there's no amendment, therefore the motion's agreed.
Well, I would like it stated that I don't agree with it. Thank you. I want it minuted.
Okay, we will go to a for or against agreement then.
Thank you. This is a repeat of the same process we had earlier on in relation to the council tax levy item. So we have the motion moved by Councillor Garner, seconded by Councillor John. We don't have general agreement because Haley Buchanan has indicated his dissent to the matter. Accordingly, we move to a for or against vote in relation to the item. Councillor Bowes. For. Haley Buchanan.
Against.
Lundy.
For.
Councillor Deacon. For. Councillor Devine.
For.
Councillor Garner.
For.
Councillor Hannah.
For.
Haley Kerr.
For.
Councillor Meiklejohn.
For.
Councillor Nimmo.
For.
Patterson.
For.
Councillor Redmond.
For.
Councillor Sinclair. For. Peers.
Against.
There are 12 votes for, 2 against. Motion.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to the motion on Bowness Town Centre. As I said, stands referred from Council, and I'll go to Councillor Devine.
Thank you, Convener. A town centre regeneration plan is a powerful opportunity to breathe new life.
Point of information. I thought we'd all already read this and we just went straight to questions.
This is a motion, Councillor Spears, and it's dealt with a motion just as it is in full council on any other occasion. Sorry, Councillor Devine, carry on.
I'll continue. A town centre regeneration plan is a powerful opportunity to breathe new life into a community, transforming into a vibrant hub that benefits everyone. By revitalising your town centre, we attract new businesses, create jobs and boost the local economy, making it a thriving place to live and work. The plan also enables public spaces to be safer and more welcoming, which not only draws tourists, but also fosters a sense of pride amongst its residents. It's not just about the physical improvements, it's about building a stronger, more connected community where local businesses can flourish and everyone can enjoy a higher quality of life. But the council cannot make this happen alone. With communities, groups and organisations playing an important part, we can develop a plan that will create the right conditions to attract investment into the town, and it is vital that we do the same for Bowness, as has been done in Falkirk and Grangemouth. Bowness, like most town centres, has been impacted by several things, including the current economic conditions and with additional pressures of online shopping. Our town really has a unique offering with the Hippodrome, the Steam Railway, Canal and the John Muir Way, just to name a few highlights. It has a history and heritage we're proud of, alongside many one-of-a-kind independent shops and businesses. We can use that as a strong foundation to build on to meet the needs of both local communities and visitors. I want to take the chance to highlight some of the great work that's already happening in and around Bowness Town Centre with some of our amazing community groups. Bloom and Bowness, who are doing a fantastic job in making our town centre and the wider town look inviting, welcoming and absolutely beautiful. The Bowness Clean Up community group, who had worked tirelessly to keep our town free from litter as much as possible, and Business for all the many amazing events they organise in the town to support business and encourage residents to use and spend time in the town. There are many more community groups and community champions in Bowness which help to keep our town in high community spirit and individually placed to make the most out of a new plan for our town. Consultation with these residents, businesses, community groups, external bodies will be critical to bringing everything together. A town centre regeneration is a powerful catalyst for positive change, driving the economic growth, supporting the businesses, boosting tourism and enhancing the community life. With the leadership and support of local government, we can create a town centre that is not only vibrant but prosperous, and also a true reflection of the spirit and resilience of our communities, and build the opportunities Bowness has. As we all know, it's the jewel of the east of Falkirk Council. Thank you, Convener, and I move the motion today.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. Councillor Garner.
Yeah, thank you to Councillor Devine for her words and bringing this motion forward, one which I'm fully supportive of and would like to second. And also thanks to you, Convener, for chairing a very trying meeting so far.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. I'll now open it up for debate. Councillor Spears.
I have some questions emailed to me by the local member, Councillor Anne Ritchie. So I would like to read them out to you on her behalf. Okay. Firstly, I was hoping to get up to the meeting this morning, but due to other commitments that have come in, I haven't managed to do so. When it comes up to on the agenda for Bowness Town Centre, can you say when you're talking that I agree with the consultation, but would like to stress that all groups, organisations, residents should be asked what they think and that they want for the town centre, one of the major organisations in Business, who is led by Billy Horn and his group of helpers. They carry out a lot of good work within the town centre, promoting business and also putting on a lot of events for the town folk and travellers from further afield, including the Christmas Switch On, which is being held this year on November 23rd, Transport Festival and much more. At the moment, they are in contact with both myself and officers of Falkirk Council regarding signage over the foreshore and also use the advertising board in the town centre. Hopefully this will help promote the town centre as well. I'm excited to see what comes out of this consultation and see what the council can do to help the town centre, hopefully with work and funding in the future. Yours, Councillor Anne Ritchie, Bowness.
There wasn't a question there, Councillor Spears. Okay, I will open it up for any other contributions. Councillor Redmond.
Thanks. I put my thoughts across, but I think it's a good motion brought forward by Councillor Devine. I have got a few questions on it. I'm just trying to toe that line between not giving my opinion but just answer questions. I suppose I think it's a really good idea. And
Councillor Redmond, before you go on, we have now gone into a motion and in debate. This is a political motion, so there is a debate and you can give your view. Just to be clear.
All right. There we go. Thanks. Oh, well, that makes it easier then. No, I think it's a good motion. You know, Bowness, like many places, had it really hard, and you know it's good that Councillor Devine standing up for our community and things and doing that. It's good to see. I think sometimes Bowness feels a bit isolated for Falkirk Council. I don't know if the people of Grangemouth would agree that Bowness is the jewel of the east of Falkirk, but I'm sure people in Bowness would say that the jewel in the east. So my questions were, obviously we've got master plans in Grangemouth and Falkirk, but what is it that they've delivered for Grangemouth and Falkirk? Because they've got master plans in place, but to me they're still facing the challenges that every high street is facing up and down the whole of the UK. So what sort of have they delivered, and what is the future for high streets in a lot of places? You know, a lot of bigger retailers are closing. We're moving to a more, more different, smaller retailers or franchises coming in. What's it delivered for Grangemouth and Falkirk, and what potentially could it deliver for Bowness? I think that would be the question.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Edmund. I'll go to Mr McGuinness.
Yes, thank you through you, convener. And we've certainly noticed that in particular the Falkirk Town Centre master plan and vision has really inspired the community to consider what are the opportunities across our town centre. It has helped and supported the work of the Calendar Square in terms of what the new HQ and Arts Centre is going to look like. So it influences that, look at the landscape around the area. So I think it's a blueprint, it's a vision. Obviously, it requires money. When we look to apply to government for money, whether that's levelling up funding, UK Shared Prosperity funding, or whatever funding, they always ask you for your strategy, your plan. This gives us a really strong plan, a strong vision for what we aspire to see within the town and across our towns. So we believe that it's a really positive contribution towards how we can develop and support our towns during these difficult times, particularly in the retail sector, as you mentioned, and look at other alternatives within our towns for our communities to make use of. We are progressing, as you mentioned, two other master plans. One is Falkirk West, which covers Tamford Hill and Camelin, and the other is in Grangemouth Town Centre itself. They just commenced recently, and we anticipate them concluding the end of this calendar year and bringing forward those plans for members' consideration in early 2025. So again, it's about a blueprint, a vision, aspiration for what we want to achieve in our towns, to make them successful, to make them vibrant. However, that comes at a cost, and we have to be very aware of challenges we have in the public purse, but we have to set our stall out with a positive vision for these towns.
Thank you. I think I'm quite happy with that, and I think we're quite happy to support the motion. Hopefully it will deliver something for Bowness as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Edmund. Any other? Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, convener. Yes, I think I don't think there's anything within the motion that any of us would not support. But I wonder if I could ask just some questions about the master planning process. I think Councillor Ritchie was asking in what was read out about the consultation process. I wonder if I could ask a little bit of clarification about what the master planning process is and how there is consultation with local people. And my second question is in terms of timescale. You've made reference, Mr McGuinness has made reference to Tamford Hill and Camelon and Grangemouth master plans, and we discussed earlier on the Kinneil master plan. So I wonder if you could say a bit more about the plans that are in process and the timescales on which it would be possible to address a Bowness master plan.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah, through you, convener. You're right. Each of these master plans requires significant engagement with our community. That's first and foremost. It's really important that we reach all parts of our society and all parts of our communities when we engage. So we welcome comments from Councillor Ritchie regarding the Business Group. We will absolutely ensure they're part of that consultation exercise. All members of our society and community need to be engaged to the consultation exercise. We do use more online tools to participate, as one example, but we do run a series of workshops with different parts of our society. So the business community will be invited along to workshops. Any group, any members, any community groups, any groups that are representative of the Bowness in this case, would be welcome along to engage and consult to ensure we represent the community as we aspire to bring forward a plan. In terms of time frame, we are limited in our resources. We can't run, we don't have the capacity to run 3 or 4 master plans at any one time. My time frame I've discussed this briefly with Councillor Devine is I won't be in a position until early next year to commence the Bowness master plan. I just don't have the capacity just now with the West Falkirk and the Grangemouth master plans in progress. So I would anticipate starting early 2025 and within 5 to 6 months going forward, a master plan for the area of Bowness would be my ambition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Councillor Devine for bringing this forward, and the content of the motion is exceptional. Could I say that Bowness is one of the I would say one of the best communities, and I'm talking about real communities that we have got left in the Falkirk district. Wonderful people, and as Councillor Devine has illustrated, there's so much going for it there. I'm looking forward to, I was down the other day, I was talking to some of my relations who live in Bowness regarding this. Now, the Bowness community is still reeling from the decision to close the Bowness Recreation Centre. People don't forget things easy. And what they were saying to me is that they were hoping that this motion and the proposals contained within it are going to come forward, because people in Bowness are still, and I know that there's we've got a few Bowness people in the area, but the fact of the matter is that they're still reeling for that decision to close that the rec, and they're hopeful that what's been brought forward today, and I fully support it, is going to come to fruition. Other than that, congratulations to Councillor Devine for bringing it forward, but let's hope that it's going to continue on its journey and we're going to see something positive and tangible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. You'll get an opportunity to sum up once everybody's spoken. Okay. If there's no one else, then Councillor Devine, can you sum up, please?
I just wanted to say that I welcome Councillor Ritchie's support to my motion today, and I'm positive that Councillor Aitchison also supports that as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And are we all agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. And I'll just say thank you to everybody for your forbearance this morning around our new standing orders. I think probably another training session so that people can understand the practical aspects of the processes now, and I hope that hopefully we'll be able to get into a rhythm eventually on how we can move our meetings on appropriately but swiftly, so that we don't spend an over amount of time talking and debating amongst ourselves when there's decisions that need to be made. Okay, thank you very much and have a good afternoon.
Thanks to the chair. Thanks to the chair.